Hi guys, welcome back. So today's episode is actually going to be something a little different to my normal monster movie mashup. No. We are still going to be focusing on all things spooky and dark.
Thank God for small miracles, huh? Lana?
However, I was actually inspired by one of you guys, a new member to the 13th Hour family, and when he subscribed, I saw his name and I thought, what clever wordplay. So he actually called himself Charlie Zard, and I'm a huge Pokemon fan. I'm sure you guys are probably Pokemon fans as well. It's not something that is, a niche topic. I actually think it's one of the big, or if not the biggest franchise to ever exist. I had the Nintendo 64 games, I had the Game Boy Color games, Game Boy, the Game Boy SP, the GameCube games, I had Pokemon Coliseum. I've played pretty much all of them, and now I'm on the Switch. I'm hoping the games on the Switch do get a little bit better. They're a bit janky at the minute, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm such a fan, I'm still gonna play them. The Pokemon universe can be a pretty dark and messed up place. And I actually revisited 2 of the Pokemon episodes from the anime that I could remember being the ones that scared me the most as a child. And when I revisited them, I was really taken back by, oh wow, there's a reason these scared me as a kid. They deal with death and murder and all things spooky. So I thought I would combine my 2 loves of things that are creepy and Pokemon. And let's revisit 2 of the episodes, the most disturbing ones out of the franchise. Before we go ahead and start, I actually want to play a game with you guys. So right now I have a Pokemon sitting in my lap. I want you to guess who he is. So pause the video, go down below, comment who you think I have sitting on my lap. And then about halfway through the video, I am going to show him. I'm going to reveal who that Pokemon is.
Who's that Pokemon?
We're going to start off our journey with the episode Abra and the Psychic Showdown. And right off the bat, this episode is creepy. The opening shot is of a ghostly figure staring right into our souls with glowing red eyes, sitting on a black throne with what looks like a doll on the entity's lap. The very first line spoken is, "So, it's time for us to play." How scary does that sound? That would have terrified me as a kid. We then cut to Ash and his friends, lost in the woods, and of course, Ash and Misty are fighting. Whilst arguing, they're interrupted by a little girl, one who looks exactly like the doll who was just sitting on that eerie figure's lap in the opening shot. The team tries to speak to her, thinking, she might be lost too. But all she responds with is a spine-chilling giggle as she runs off into the fog. Ash, being the hero he is, tries to chase her down to reveal that this girl had disappeared. But what's truly disturbing is this phantom has led Ash to a cliff's edge. And Ash, completely blinded by how thick the fog was unable to see the drop-off and walked straight over the edge. This girl, in the first 30 seconds of this episode, has literally tried to murder Ash. Luckily, this wasn't the actual end of Ash, as he was able to use his Bulbasaur to get him back to the top of the cliff before hitting the ground. We love you, Bulbasaur. This is why you're one of the OGs. The fog eventually clears. Brock and Misty, they're able to see Saffron City, so they found a way out. And Brock mentions that Sabrina is the gym leader here. And trust me, Brock, you might not know what's coming, but you do not want to try and hit on this girl. After a brief encounter with Jesse and James, as in every episode, our team has made their way to the Saffron City gym. And the gym is alarmingly empty. Eventually, the group meets a bunch of lab-coated people who all seem to be experimenting on themselves. trying to access their psychic powers or trying to see if they have some kind of psychic powers. This scene kind of reminds me of Stranger Things, when they're all in the lab and they're all being tested on as kids, trying to see what psychic powers they have. Of course, this came out like way before Stranger Things, but you never know. This might have been where they got their inspiration from. One of these lab-coated people lead Ash to Sabrina. As they reach the battle room, they are shocked to see the little girl, the one who just tried to kill Ash. Her eyes burning red. And for no reason at all, apart from being pure evil, she uses her mental abilities and lifts up the poor person who led our team to her up by the throat, strangling him in front of the whole gang and causing him so much pain he screams and runs in terror. Weirdly enough, the gang isn't really too fazed by this at all, and Ash still challenges this little girl to a gym battle. And the little girl agrees on one condition. If they lose, they have to be her friends and play with her forever. Then all of a sudden we get some kind of M. Night Shyamalan plot twist as we learn that the little girl is not Sabrina. She's not the gym leader, but instead a woman who was lurking in the darkness is. The woman shows herself, bringing her into light. She locks the doors behind the gang and floats to the gym floor. Again, the team is, weirdly not fazed by the fact that this human just flew. I would be really taken back. She's not a Pokemon. So why does she have these abilities? But they just see it as a normal thing. Sabrina begins by bringing out her Abra. And of course, Ash sends out his Pikachu. During the battle, Abra is asleep and does nothing really to initiate the fight. And Pikachu attempts to make the first move. But all of a sudden, we see Sabrina's eyes light up. And as they do, Abra's eyes do the exact same thing. Almost if they are the same entity, like she herself is the Abra. After the Abra teleports, Sabrina forces the Abra with her psychic abilities to evolve into a Kadabra. And we have no idea if Abra was even ready to evolve, but she gave him no choice. She forced him to doing this, even if he wasn't ready or didn't want to. Now, I have reviewed Kadabra's Pokédex entries from some of the games, and he's a pretty messed up Pokemon. So listen to this. In Sun and Moon and a couple of the other games, it actually says that Kadabra was once a small boy who had psychic abilities. These psychic abilities were so strong and out of control that one day he just woke up as a Kadabra. Could you imagine that? Just one day waking up as some random beast. Probably unable to communicate that this is you. He was probably run out, Frankenstein style. He was probably run out of the home. They probably thought the Kadabra stole the boy. And it's also said that Kadabras can infest radios and televisions, and they bring you bad luck. So Ash's Pikachu, ever persistent, still tries to attack the much stronger Kadabra, with no avail. The Kadabra bounces off Pikachu's attacks. He uses his psychic powers to control Pikachu's body and forces him to dance before smashing his body off the walls. God, that's so dark. Could you imagine having no control of your body and having some entity force you to dance before they try and kill you? Ash panics, as we all would. Nobody wants a crushed up Pikachu. He runs over and shields Pikachu with his own body, ending the match. And this means he loses. And because he has lost, the group now has to be the little girl's friends forever. She uses her supernatural abilities and teleports Ash, Misty and Brock, altering their bodies, forcing them to now be nothing more than playthings. In their new miniature size, they are sent to be prisoners in the little girl's playhouse. This disturbed child then tries to kill Ash and his team again. This child is an absolute menace. She is a demon. And taking advantage of their miniature size, she tries to crush them, to just flatten them like pancakes.
I wanna play
just in time, a random man teleports in and with his own paranormal powers, teleports the gang out of the dollhouse and back into the real world. The man advises that Sabrina is dangerous. They lived this time, but might not if they ever choose to go back, and will be trapped in her cursed toy box for all eternity. Or even worse, will be murdered. These episodes are so much darker than I remember. They deal with topics of death and murder, ghosts and ghouls, being forced to do things that you don't want to do. Let's move on to something a little lighter. As I promised, we would reveal who the Pokemon is sitting on my lap about halfway through the video. So if not, quickly pause now if you haven't put your guess in the comments and pop it in. It's your last chance. Because the Pokemon I have sitting on my lap is...
Who's that Pokémon?
Squirtle. He's kind of cute. This one looks a little bit funny. I just won him from a random claw machine, so... He's still cute though, and he can chill. He can chill here. Now the next episode we are going to revisit is Season 11's Ghoul Days. Now, as we saw from the previous episode, Pokemon isn't shy to touch on the topic of death or killing. And this episode definitely does it in a more horrific way. So we begin our story with Ash, Brock and Dawn all chilling at their school desks when we hear an announcement from Professor Rowan. We learn today they will be discovering how to deal with ghost-type Pokemon. Now, I love ghost-type Pokemon. They're actually one of my favorite types. They're usually pretty strong as well. Ghost and Fairy. I mean, Dragon's up there, but Ghost and Fairy I love. The kids must buddy up and venture into the summit ruins at night to retrieve a gold medallion. If you have played some of the original Pokemon games, this is probably going to be the equivalent to the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town, where she's extremely haunted. You're only going to get ghost-type Pokemon. We can see everyone buddying up, but there's one person who's not, and that's Conway. This character on his own wanders off towards the forest as he weighs up his partner options. And all of a sudden, from the distance, we hear a sinister giggle coming from the shrubbery, and a girly hand pokes out and waves, beckoning him to come over to her. He makes the horrible mistake of going over and is greeted by a very ominous looking child, her hair covering her eyes, and with a chilling voice she asks the boy to come and play. Oddly enough, there's a lot of similarities between the ghost girl in this episode and the ghostly girl from Abra and the Psychic Showdown. I don't think they are related in any way. I think they just took inspiration from the story. And I'm wondering if in Japan there is maybe a yokai that is a ghostly girl that lives in the forest. I'll search it up and just see, but it seems to be a common theme running through the haunted Pokemon episodes. But all of a sudden, from under her dark hair, a glowing eye appears, hypnotizing this person into doing anything she wants him to do. As night falls, we see our friends heading off into the woods on their adventure through the summit ruins. Not too long into their venture, we get to see our very first Pokemon. And out of the shadows, we see the hand of a Haunter grabbing Shinx's tail. I mean, Haunter is a really messed up Pokemon. If you've not read his Pokédex entries, and I do this quite often, where I play the games, I tend to read the Pokédex entries as I catch them. And in Pokemon Silver and Gold, it says, "In total darkness, Haunter lurks waiting for his next victims. Its tongue is made of gas, and if you're licked, you're gonna shake uncontrollably until death comes for you. It's incredibly dangerous to go outside on the nights that you are feeling sad, because Haunter will come for you and you will not be going back home." We then pan over to see a whole group of ghost-type Pokemon playing pranks on the students. You've got Gengar, Ghastly, and Haunter, so you've got the whole evolution line there, all playing pranks on everybody, having a great time. And Gengar is actually one of my favourite Pokemon, and again, his Pokédex entry is pretty dark too. And Gengar apparently wishes for a human travelling companion. He's lonely because Gengar was once human himself, and he tries to create a human companion by taking the lives of humans. And if you feel that you've just been attacked by a sudden chill, that's Gengar approaching, and there's no escaping it. You might as well just give up. And in an effort to steal away the human lives, if your shadow begins to giggle, you need to take hold of a protective charm immediately if you have one on you. If you don't, it's the end of the line. Dawn's coward of a partner runs off terrified after seeing the 3 ghost types leaving her with just her Piplup as company. All of a sudden, she spots Conway in a dreamlike state strolling through the forest. She can't see that Conway is in a trance by this little girl. In fact, I don't think Dawn can see the little girl at all. So that tells us that this little girl is probably a ghost. This spooky child leading Conway walks towards the cliff's edge and happily continues to walk off it, floating above the descent. She continues to call for Conway to follow her, and he slowly walks towards his death. Conway steps on the ledge, and just before he begins to fall, we see a huge Pokemon's arm emerging from the darkness, grabbing Conway, saving him from the murderous act. So the Pokemon that saves him is a Dusknoir, and I find it really odd that Dusknoir would go out of his way to save a human. Dusknoir's not exactly the nicest Pokemon, again as we know from the Pokédex entries. Dusknoir comes to those whose lives have already come to an end to escort their souls to the afterlife. He's basically the Grim Reaper of the Pokemon world, but he has been known to mistakenly take the souls of those who still have life within them. With the mouth on its belly, it actually eats human souls or Pokemon souls, so it puts the entire body in himself, eats the soul, and then spits up the useless body. He doesn't need it, he just wants the soul. Dusknoir is so pissed off at seeing this little ghost girl, he actually challenges her. He tries to fight her, to which she flees. She flies off into the night sky. The entity is not gone, and she reappears, this time trying to entice Meowth to follow her. Dusknoir once more comes to the rescue, causing the ghost to retreat. More people venture over towards that part of the woods, and Dusknoir sees no other option but to attack the group to keep them away from this evil spirit. Ash and his buddy were still trekking through the forest when a Mischievous jumps out, scaring them both, and they run off in terror to only get lost. And once more, this spiteful spectre shows up and offers Ash and his friend guidance on where to go. She knows they're lost and is going to take advantage of that situation. She tells them to follow her, and without hesitation, they begin to accompany the ghostly girl. So far, the moral of both of these episodes is to just not trust children, especially little girls in the middle of the woods. We shift back to the school where all parties aside from Ash and his buddy are back, and telling Professor Rowan they had encountered a Dusknoir. The professor advises that this can't be, that he knows all the Pokemon who reside in the forest and there are no Dusknoirs. But he begins to tell a story. When doing some renovations, they smashed through a wall and found a cave. This cave was believed to be the portal to the spirit world, or even the gates of hell. As mentioned before, the Dusknoir is said to take people back to the spirit world, and may have come through this portal if the evil spirit had gotten out from the depths of hell. This is where we basically learn that Dusknoir is there to try and protect the children. He's actually trying to get this demonic spirit and take her back to the other side. Ash and his teammate actually make it to the summit. The little girl leads them to the right place, and they collect their medals. This is also where the gates to hell are located. The Phantom drifts over to the cave and tells Ash to come inside, attempting to kidnap them and steal their souls. Dusknoir, out of the shadows, comes down between them and the entity. The group, fearful that Dusknoir is out to hurt what they believe to be a little girl, fights him and knocks him out. I mean, I get that he's a terrifying looking Pokemon, but that was such a bad move. The little girl, smirking, opens up the gateway, trying to suck in both parties. Dusknoir, just in time, wakes up and protects Ash, blasting the possessed child back into the hellhole, sending her back to the spirit world. His attack was so strong, it blocked up the portal and his job was complete. And it seems that they all lived happily ever after there, apart from being absolutely traumatized knowing that there are evil spirits in the woods and they'll probably never go there again. So those are some of the creepiest Pokemon episodes that I can remember. And this type of video was a little different, but I really enjoyed making it, and I have such a love for animation, and I would love to do a series on more spooky and darker children's episodes, because there are a whole bunch of them. Let me know down below who your favorite Pokemon is. Now, oddly enough, Squirtle's not my favorite Pokemon. I have a soft spot for the goodest boy of all time, Growlithe. I love Growlithe. The fact that he can learn dragon type moves as well as his own fire types. I love Ralts, and I have a really big spot in my heart for Cyndaquil and Totodile. Now, I know they are starter Pokemons, and it's a little basic to have a starter Pokemon as your favorite, but I mean, they are, and it is what it is. I would love to know who your favorites are and who you would normally pick as your starter type. I tend to go for the fire. I think fire types are harder to find in the game, so if I start with a fire type, I know by the time I get to the Pokemon League, I've got a strong fire type with me. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you who has previously liked, watched, subscribed. And if you want to join the 13th Hour family, be sure to like and subscribe as well. I post weekly. And like I said, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye.